Jayam Vishnupad Padmahangsa Parivadikacharya Satarasi Srimad. His Divine Grace Abhay Charanarvind Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Scampi Vidhi Founder Charges Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Padmahangsa Parivadikacharya Satarasi Srimad. His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananda Kori Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Sri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Brihat Pradanga Chatur Bhukti Distribution Ki Jai. Shri Nrsimha Bhagavan Ki Jai. Shri Nrsimha Bhagavan Ki Jai. Shri Lakshmi Nrsimha Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai. Gaura Premanandi. All glories to some devotees. All glories to some devotees. All glories to some devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning, in honor of the appearance of Lord Nrsimhadev, we were going to be reading from the 7th canto, chapter 9, entitled Prahlad Pacifies the Lord with Prayers. And to not infringe upon Maharaj's class this evening, because we're going to be hearing about the appearance of Nrsimhadev, we just wanted to mainly touch on the wonderful prayers that Prahlad Maharaj offers. So this is post-Nrsimha. This is after his demise. What happened afterwards? So these are some very, very advanced prayers that Prahlad Maharaj offers to Lord Nrsimhadev. And what struck me about them is that Prahlad Maharaj reveals the process by which we can receive or enter into the position or establish at least ourselves in a position where we are able to receive the mercy of the Lord. And Srila Prabhupada, in these purports, he also establishes the unique position of Prahlad. Because Prahlad is a very Mahajano Yenikata Sapanta, he's one of the Mahajans. And in our disciplic line, we follow such great authorities. And Srila Prabhupada reveals in this whole pastime the unique position of Prahlad. That although he was a small young child, and of course we sometimes, we can also appreciate the position of Dhruva Maharaj. This is a different experience, and it's very unique in that Prahlad, from the very beginning, he was simply focused on preaching the glories of the Lord by the mercy of Narada Muni, and he explains that. He makes that point also in his prayers, that by the kind mercy of the Lord Narada Muni, his spiritual master was sent to him, and he was able to receive such a beautiful instruction. So this verse is text number 50. Okay, we're going to do the same as the Brahma Samhita melody. Tatter hatama namak stuti karma puja Taterhatama namakstuti karma puja. Karma smritis charanayo shravanam katayam. Karma smritis charanayo shravanam katayam. Sangsevaya tvaivaneti sarangaya kim. Sangsevaya tvaivaneti sarangaya kim. Bhaktim jana paramahansa gato labeta. Bhaktim janak paramahansa gato labeta. Taterhatama namakstuti karma puja. Karma smritis charanayo shavanangatayam. Sangsevaya tvaivaneti sarangaya kim. Bhaktim janak paramahansa gato labheta. Ooh, the void. Taterhatama namakstuti karma puja. Karma smritis charanayo shravanankatayam. Sangsevaya tvaivaneti sarangaya kim. Bhaktim janak paramahansa gato labhita. Taterhatama namakstuti karma puja. Karma smritis charanayo samanakatayam. Sangsevaya tvaivaneti sarangaya kim. Bhaktim janak paramahansa gato labhita. Taterhatam namakstuti karma puja. Karma smritis charanayo shavanangadayam. Sangsevaya tvaivaneti sarangaya kim. Bhaktim janak paramahansa gato labhita. Taterhatama namakstuti karma puja. Karma smritis charanayo shravanankadayam. Sangsevaya tvaivaneti sarangaya kim. Bhaktim janak paramahansa gato labhita. Ladies, tatertama namakstuti karma puja. Karma tejis charanayo shavanangadayam. Sangsevaya tvaivaneti sarangaya kim. Bhaktim Janak Paramahansa Gadolabhita. Tat, therefore, te, unto you, Arhatama, O supreme of all worshipable persons. Nama, respectful obeisances. Stuti Karma Puja, worshipping your lordship by offering prayers and other devotional activities. Karma, activities being dedicated to you. Smriti, constant remembrance. Charanayo, of your lotus feet. Shravanam, always hearing. Katayam, in topics about you. Sevaya, such devotional service. Tvayi, unto you. Vina, without. Iti, thus. Sarangaya, having 6 different parts. Kim, how. Bhaktim, devotional service. Jana, a person. Paramahansa gato, obtainable by the Paramahansa. Alaveta, may attain. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Therefore, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, the best of all persons, to whom prayers are offered, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, because without rendering 6 kinds of devotional service unto you, offering prayers, dedicating all the results of activities, worshipping you, working on your behalf, always remembering your lotus feet, and hearing about your glories, who can achieve that which is meant for the Paramahansas? Purport. The Vedas enjoin, Nayam Atma Pravachanena Labhyo Namede Bahuna Bashutena. One cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead simply by studying the Vedas and offering prayers. Only by the grace of the Supreme Lord can one understand Him. The process of understanding the Lord, therefore, is bhakti. Without bhakti, simply following the Vedic injunctions to understand the absolute truth will not be helpful at all. The process of bhakti is understood by the Paramahansa, one who has accepted the essence of everything. Result of bhakti are reserved for such a Paramahansa, and this stage cannot be obtained by any Vedic process other than devotional service. Other processes, such as Jnana and Yoga, can be successful only when mixed with bhakti. When we speak of Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, the word yoga indicates bhakti. Bhakti Yoga or Buddhi Yoga, executed with intelligence and full knowledge, is the only successful method for going back home, back to Godhead. If one wants to be liberated from the pangs of material existence, he should take to devotional service for quick attainment of this goal. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Padastapale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachani Visesha Sunyavaya Pastachari Satana Om Gyana Tevidamanasya Gyan Jana Shalakaya Chakshu Militam Denya Tasmai Sigurve Namah From Guru Devachalam Bangam Mulakaya Tegrim Eknipadamande Siguram Dinatarna Paramananda Marvam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram. So as Prabhupada points out here, one should take to devotional service for quick attainment of this goal. And Prahlada, of course, is that wonderful example that he didn't waste any time. And in this wonderful selection of prayers, Prahlad is revealing the process by which that success is attainable. When after Lord Nrsimhadev was disposed of by Lord Nrsimhadev, the demigods headed by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva were so frightened by the fierce form of Lord Nrsimhadev that they dared not come forward. Lord Nrsimhadev, as we'll hear this evening from Maharaj, put on quite a display, which we won't talk about, but we're anxiously hearing this evening. But after he disposed of Hiranyakasipu, he was quite fierce, and the demigods headed by Brahma were too afraid to go forward, so they asked Lakshmi, you should go. But Lakshmi also, she'd never seen such a ferocious form that she also declined. So Prahlad was just nearby, and when Brahma saw him, he asked, please, you go and speak to the Lord, try to pacify his anger, because he's angry at your father. Right? It's all about your father. So you should go and offer some prayers to pacify him. So Prahlad went, and he fell at the lotus feet of the Lord. And the Lord was so moved by his devotion, and we know from the Vedic Shastras that the Lord is most inclined to his devotees, more so than the karmis, jnanis, the yogis, the fruitive workers, those who are engaged in so many other processes for self-realization, and there are 10 of them, as Prahlad points out in his prayers. There are 10 processes by which one can attain liberation. So there's multiple personalities who approach the Lord for different motives, this and that. But when his devotee comes, he's especially moved. So the Lord touched Prahlad on his head. He placed his hand on his head, and we know from also the example of Gajendra that when the Lord touches his devotee, he's immediately elevated to the transcendental platform. And by the touch of the Lord, one can become fearless. And this particular pastime is especially significant in that it shows how getting the mercy of the Lord, one can become fearless. So Prahlad, as soon as he was touched by the hand of the Lord, immediately he experienced transcendental ecstasies. He was going through all sorts of wonderful experiences, hair standing on end, eyes watering, the faltering of the voice, and was exhibiting all of these wonderful feelings, and at the same time was fixing his mind and sight upon the Lord, and began to offer wonderful prayers with a faltering voice. Just as sometimes we may in our own little way, we feel a little bit of, maybe a teeny bit of spiritual emotion, and we come before the Lord, and when we offer something from the heart, we can feel it. It becomes emotional. Even sometimes, maybe with some false emotion, we have some tears. But in the case of the great stalwart devotees of the Lord, when they offer their prayers to the Lord, they're offering with a sincere and faltering voice. And Prahlad began by exclaiming that, how is it that I, who was born in a Asura family, am able to offer prayers? He was quite amazed. How is it that I'm here in front of the Supreme Lord and I'm offering prayers when even Brahma and Shiva and Lakshmi Devi and so many of the other, they could not come and satisfy you. So he was quite struck by that how is it that I'm in this position? What fortune I've received. Just like, again, we can analyze our own lives, that what great fortune we have to be here in front of the Supreme Lord. It's such a great fortune. We can't imagine, we can't calculate how special it is, how wonderful it is that we've been given this wonderful opportunity. So Prahlad was thinking also, how is it that I'm here when even Brahma cannot satisfy, not even Lakshmi Devi? But I will follow their example. Mahajano yena katasa panta. Just as they tried to offer you some seva, they tried to offer you some kind of a prayer of appeasement, some kind of seva. So I'll try. I'll try to do something. Just as we can, just for a moment think about Srila Prabhupada's journey coming to the Western world to preach Krishna consciousness. Okay, I'll do it. I'll just try at least. Let me at least try. I'm following the order of my spiritual master, just as Prahlad, he's now being asked by Lord Brahma, please you go and offer some prayers. Okay, I'll do it because you're asking. But I'm only following in your example. So Srila Prabhupada also, he's in his own way, also was experiencing that same dedication, that same connection in coming and preaching to the Western world. Okay, I don't have any qualification, but I'll try. And of course, this is the Vaishnava attitude, isn't it? Janadapi sunichena tarodapi saishnana. I don't have any qualification, but I'll try. And Prabhupada comments in this pastime that unless one feels meek and humble to make progress in spiritual life is very difficult. It's very difficult. And we all have that experience, that as soon as we stumble a little bit in our devotional life, it's only because we've been neglectful in our execution, or we've been inattentive in our dealings. So there's some stumble happens. You know, we get a little boot by Krishna to wake up. So one has to be very careful to keep that mentality constantly. So Prahlad was keeping that. Well, how am I so? I'm so fortunate to be here, but I'll try. So he began by asking Nrsimha the Lord to please give up his anger. Please give up your anger, because this snake, Hiranyakasipu, he's been killed. Now all the world can be happy and free from a fear by remembering you. This is the experience that Prahlad also was having, that by his remembrance of the Lord in so many difficulties, he remained fearless. Even he was being tortured by his father and such a powerful demon who's just by his movement of the eyebrows, the demigods scattered. They would run away. He was such a powerful personality. But by remembering you, we can become fearless. So actually, I'm not afraid of your form. Even though this form that the Lord exhibited with his ferocious teeth and his nails and the garland of intestines, and his mane was spotted with blood, and his voice was his roar was so ferocious that that is described. Elephants would run, just like in the jungle, right? When the Brajapati knows that in the jungle, when the lion roars, everybody scatters. Everybody scatters. So when Lord Nrsimhadev, the Supreme Lord, would roar, everyone would feel that thunder, that faltering in the heart. But I'm not afraid. Just as a cub is not afraid of the lion, right? Just as a small little cub may be in the jaws of the mother, it's not afraid. It feels instead comfort. And this, even though this form was so ferocious, I went one time to where Jayananda works. Everyone remembers Jayananda Prabhu. So I went to his place where he was working. And interestingly enough, there's all kinds of pictures of lions that people are attracted to. But none of them were as beautiful as the form of Nrsimhadev. It's so unique. It's quite fascinating. And he told me, and I've spoken to different people about that, and how they're fascinated by the specific form and beauty of Lord Nrsimhadev. It's not just some lion who's got big teeth or pointy ears or something, or red-hot eyes. No, it's something special about this beautiful form of the Lord. But I'm not afraid. What I am afraid of, though, he said, is the condition of life, is my condition of life in this material world. And this is an interesting beginning to Prahlad's prayers, to his offering. That I'm not afraid of you, but I am afraid of my condition of life in this material world. And he prays that when will that moment come when you will call me to the shelter of your lotus feet. So his real fear was that as a result of his karma, he'd been put into the association of this demoniac family. This is, for a devotee, this is our real fear. That we have to be in the association of materialistic people. That our mind becomes bewildered by the association of materialistic people. This is a great fear. And one should be cautious of that, because it's so easy to become swept up by that association. So one has to be very careful. And that although there may be many remedies to get out of the miseries of material life, and certainly the materialists are very expert at that, right? They try to create all sorts of remedies social, political, economic, etc., to get out of the miseries of material life, those remedies are more miserable than the miseries themselves. In the long run, they create more problems than the original problem. And we see that practically in society, that although we're trying to improve our social, economic, and political conditions to mitigate or to address this issue and that issue, those remedies, those so-called remedies, they only compound the problem. And in many cases, they make the situation even worse. So, in his mind, Prahlad was saying, by following in the footsteps of the great devotees, one can cross over this dangerous place. Mahajano Yainakata Sapanta. I'm taking again the example of my teachers, that one can cross over this bodily concept of life, because the people in general, they want to mitigate the miseries. They want bhukti, mukti, siddhi. They want some enjoyment. They want some liberation, or they want some kind of perfection in life. But they're not happy by that. Saktale ashanta. They're disturbed. Even though they're so-called perfect in their own system or way or whatever. Actually, they're quite disturbed. And ultimately they're vanquished. Just as Hiranyakashipu. Although he was a great and powerful personality who would laugh at the demigods sarcastically. Right? He would laugh at them. Oh, step aside. But he was vanquished in a moment. So now by this experience, now what I'm doing is I'm just paraphrasing all of Prahlad's prayers, because they're so nectar that we can't touch upon even one line. But from this experience, now I have experience that I have no desire to possess these things. Through this experience, just see how intelligent he was. And this is the mercy of the Lord, that the Lord gives us intelligence. Jnanam apohanam cha. Krishna is giving the intelligence, but he's also giving the forgetfulness to those who want to go in that direction. But he gives the intelligence by which we can understand him and see that this is not a place for me. Instead, Prahlad's prayer was that place me in touch with your pure devotee. Just place me in touch with your pure devotee. I can see by this experience that this is not what I want. And Narottam Das Thakur, he prays like that, right? Or he sings like that. Chadiya Vaishnava Seva Nishtapaye Chakibha. Right? He says that one should take shelter of the Vaishnavas. This is the solution. This is the remedy for miseries of material life. Not these other so-called remedies. So Prahlad prays that I was born in a family full of hellish qualities. That not even Brahma and Shiva received this mercy of you placing your hand upon my head. I was born in a hellish condition, and you've been so kind as to place your hand upon my head. This is certainly a benediction. And Srila Prabhupada explains that the Lord does give benediction according to the level of service. Just as a kalpavriksha tree, when the mood is correct, approaching the kalpavriksha, one can obtain so many benefits. So when that level of service is proper, the Lord is just as the kalpavriksha. He offers so many benedictions. So certainly this is a benediction that you've been here before us, and you're allowing me to engage in this service. But I don't want anything, because the Lord was offering Prahlad whatever benediction he would like, now that his father had been vanquished and the Lord was satisfied by his prayers. Okay, whatever you desire. But Prahlad, his response was that he didn't want anything. You've already sent by your grace, you've sent Narada Muni, who's kindly instructed me and accepted me as his disciple. So my first duty is to serve him. That's my first service. You're offering, but my first duty, in my mind, is that you've been so kind as to ascend my spiritual master. So my first duty is to serve him. How can I leave him? In other words, Srila Prabhupada explains that one should not be anxious to offer direct service to the Lord. Of course, we can be anxious that we're doing something for Krishna, which is important. We want to do something for Krishna to satisfy him, but one should not be anxious to offer that direct service. But instead, one should be anxious to become a servant of the servant. Tandara charana seva bhakta sanivas. Janame janame hoy eha bhilas. That actually our mood should be that however long and whatever condition it may be, let me just engage in the service of the Vaishnavas. And when Krishna sees that anxiety, that passion, then Krishna becomes that kalpavriksha. He offers so many wonderful benedictions. So then Prahlad goes on to say that actually now, because you've given me this mercy of my spiritual master, I have no fear. Actually, I'm not afraid now. It's interesting how he transitioned from being terribly afraid of this material world, but now I don't have any fear. I don't have any fear. By your mercy, by the mercy of your servant, by the mercy of my spiritual master, actually now I don't have any fear. Why? Because I'm fully absorbed in thoughts of your glories and activities. Because Prahlad is so absorbed in the thoughts and activities of the personality of Godhead, and those activities include his wonderful devotees, he has no fear. There are many saintly persons, he points out, who are interested in their own deliverance. Now, there are many saintly persons. You can go into the Himalayas, you can go to so many corners of the world, and there are certainly, and many traditions for that matter, who are very saintly. Who are very saintly in their activities and in their devotion to their understanding of God. And that it's commendable. We can respect that. We can appreciate that. But all too often, they're only interested in their own deliverance. They may go to the mountains, they may practice mauna, they may practice some kind of brata, some kind of tapasya. But in my case, I don't want to be liberated alone. I'm not interested in just my own liberation. I can do that, certainly, but because of the effects of bhakti, because of the emotion and the desires that develop in one who practices the process of bhakti, instead one wants to share it. One wants to include other conditioned souls, some or other, get them inspired, because jan maitanari grihamatam sukha tucham. Why? Because the grihamatis, the materialists, they don't have any spiritual knowledge. They don't know how to tolerate even the sufferings of this material world. Maya Sukhaya Bhavam. What is that? Maya Sukhaya Bharam Udvadhobi Mudhan. He's only interested in delivering or making some plan to help the fools and rascals who are making so many materialistic plans. So then he goes on to describe that there are different methods to do that, certainly. There are 10 different methods that he specifically points out, of which silence and austerities, mantras, study can be, are part of that, and can be successful to a certain point. But the problem is that because one may become falsely proud, these ways may not be successful. Because again, one may be proud of his austerities, he may be proud of his knowledge or his ability to chant the mantras in such a perfect way. It makes everyone intoxicated. I remember actually the first time I went to India, I remember we went, not first time I went to South India. I remember going to some of these South Indian temples, and the brahmanas there would chant in such a wonderful, melodious way that it was practically intoxicating. It was so wonderful to hear. So one may become so expert in all of these things, but the danger is that one may become falsely proud, and therefore will not be successful. Therefore, the wise person should engage in the process of devotional service, because we know that Krishna explains that also in the Bhagavad Gita, right? Vedeshu yageshu tapasu chaiva. He explains, the Lord himself says, that if one practices the process of bhakti, then whatever results one may achieve through the practice of austerities or study of Vedic literatures or sacrifices, all of this is automatically achieved to one who perfects the process of bhakti yoga. So the example here of Prahlad is so significant, because it shows how simply by practicing the process of bhakti yoga, all success is there, and one can become fearless. Right? The devotees are fearless. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada so nicely establishes the position of Prahlad as that Paramahansa which he mentions, which Prahlad mentions here in the verse. Who can achieve that which is meant for the Paramahansas? Success in devotional service, which is available for the Paramahansas, which is exclusive to the Paramahansas, is achievable by one who practices the process of bhakti. It's achievable. So, my final point here is that Prahlad showed by example. There's a very beautiful shloka or verse in the Narayana Kuvacha that Vishwarupa explains in the 6th canto, where he describes the chanting and the emotion of Prahlad, where he says, Vidikshu diksurdam adak samantad anta bahir bhagavan narasingha. This is a beautiful prayer in which Prahlad, he states that he's praying to Lord Nrsimhadev to please protect him from all dangers and protect him from the fears created by their stalwart leaders. It's interesting. There are very powerful people in the world who are trying to instill fear into the masses of people. So Prahlad is asking, just like Hiranyakashipu. So Prahlad was asking that, please protect me from such personalities. So he would loudly chant, Nrsimhadev! And in that way he was asking the Lord to please protect him from those fears, protect him in all directions and in all the corners, all up and down, within and without. And he was praying that the Lord please use his influence to cover over the influence of such persons. So that is our prayer as well. We're praying to Lord Nrsimhadev, please protect us from the influence of these persons, which are all around us, basically. They're all around us, and they're sometimes within and without. So our prayer is that simply give us your devotional service, and if you want to give me anything, and we'll hear this wonderful a prayer later on in that same canto, in the same pastime, where he says, Yadi dasyasi me kaman varangstwang varadarshapha kamanam hridasamroham bhavatas tu varenivanam. O best of the giver of benedictions, and no one can say that, no one can compete with Krishna. When he wants to give some benediction, no one can compete with that. It's the best. So certainly the Lord is the best giver of all benedictions. So if you want to give me something, because again the Lord was offering, if you want to give me anything, then I pray that within the core of my heart I have no material desires. That's all I want. That's all I'm interested in. Prabhupada concludes this whole description by saying that the devotees are always positive. Okay, if you want to give me something, I'll take it for your seva. Okay, well, are there any questions or comments? Yes, Mataji.
The dangers. Hello? Yeah. So you were elucidating the dangers of becoming expert, and I would like if you could say something about the dangers of not bothering to become expert in things, because I think becoming expert for many of us is something we can only aspire after, and but not bothering about doing things properly might be something more common in the Kali Yuga.
I didn't hear it. Yeah.
No, he already explained. He was talking about the dangers of becoming expert.
Yeah. Ah, yeah.
We hear a lot about how being expert is dangerous, but it's one of the 26 qualities
Yeah.
of devotees to become experts. So could you speak about the dangers of not aspiring for that?
Yeah. Certainly, there's dangers in becoming intoxicated by some expertise. That I know how to do this and I know how to do that, then we become intoxicated and we make some mistake. We falter. We struggle. But then on the other side of that also, we need to become, we should desire to become. Utsahan nistayat daryat tat tat karma bhavartana. One should be enthusiastic and determined to become qualified, not complacent. But we should learn, we should desire to become expert in addressing the deities or in every execution of our devotional activities. We want to become expert. But that expertise is as an offering to Krishna. It's not an expertise to show off or glorify myself, or I've done this and I've done that. That never works. That never works. Again, punik mushika bhava. Such a person again becomes a mouse. We've seen it time and time again. So, as Prabhupada said, commented in this purport, that unless one maintains that proper mentality, trinadapi sunichena, then a success in spiritual life will become very, very difficult. But we want to become expert. We want to become expert in addressing the deities. We want to become expert in cooking, but we do that as an offering. The spiritual masters is satisfied when we're cooking nicely for the deity. And that's our mentality. We're trying to do something to satisfy him so that that offering can be done nicely to the Lord. Otherwise, it's foolishness. It's not very satisfying. In 75, and Srila Prabhupada 74 in Chicago, and Srila Prabhupada visited there. The Radha Damodar temple devotees were there. They were passing through, and Prabhupada gave a class on his Vyasasan. The deities were on one end, Prabhupada was on the other end. And after class, Prabhupada asked for prasadam to be delivered, right? So they brought some prasadam out from the deities plates. And Prabhupada tasted the halava, and he stopped and said, "Who made this halava?" And well, they said, "There's such and such cook." So they asked the cook to come out. Prabhupada asked the cook to come out, and the cook came out, and Prabhupada said, "You put salt instead of sugar in this halava." "Oh," she said, "oh well, Krishna's mercy." And Prabhupada just fired back like a lion. He said, "No, it's your foolishness." So we want to become expert, but we have to be conscious in everything we're doing, who we're doing it for, and how it's going to be offered, and what is our intent in the heart. We have to be very careful about these things. Otherwise, weeds grow up at the same time. We have a beautiful garden here and there, and if you're not careful, the weeds come up and they tangle within the plant, and it strangles it. So we want to become expert, but at the same time, we have to be careful. So we take the association of the Vaishnavas, we take the association of the spiritual master to get a proper direction, to keep those weeds out, and then it's a wonderful experience. Otherwise, we've seen Krishna consciousness can become a burden for some, and they go away. That's all I would say. Any other questions or comments?
Well, just thank you for that very comprehensive summary of Prahlad Maharaj's
Oh,
prayers.
It was just
It's
a
obviously
touch.
a lot of preparation, a lot of study and thought.
He had 50 some verses, 50 some prayers that he offers, and they're so deep. They're so deep, and Prabhupada, his purports are so deep. They not only, again, it establishes the personality of Prahlad, but Prabhupada again establishes who Prahlad is. He's that Paramahansa that he's talking about in that last verse.
Thank you, Prabhu. That was wonderful. I was so happy to hear that you were going to describe that because, as you just mentioned, it's so deep. And each one of those beautiful prayers that Prahlad Maharaj is offering to Lord Nrsimha are so instructed. You can't tell. I was thinking, which one is the best?
Yeah.
Each one of them is like has a particular flavor. And I'm also very attracted to that particular prayer where he's mentioned that every day, constantly, he's harassed by material desires. And then he says, and I was following the general populace of people and sinking in the dark well full of snakes. And then he said, after that, by your mercy, I met my spiritual master. And he saved me, and he put me in the right position, and in my constitutional position. And therefore, now, I want to serve him ever. I don't want to leave that service.
I can't. How can I leave him?
How can I leave that?
Sheesh.
That was like...
We can't imagine that kind of devotion.
Thank you very
But
much.
it's nice to hear. Srila Prabhupada
Ki Jai, Nrsimha Bhagavan ki Jai, Prahlad Maharaj ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.